So we are on air. Welcome all to this session. We will look into research data management from this different perspective, both from looking at how to maximize impact in terms of when creating research infrastructures, also in terms of skills which researchers need for doing research data management, and looking at workflows. So today we have three speakers representing a larger group of people who have been involved in this work, and I will introduce them in a couple of minutes, but first some housekeeping information. You are by now certainly familiar with the rules in this session. It's recorded, and all of you are muted during the presentations, but you are welcome at any time to provide comments or questions in the chat. Also discuss among each other if you like to. And then we take these questions later to when I bring them back all after the presentations, and they will answer your questions. And if there are any leftover questions, we are happy to look into this later. And I'm sure the speakers are with me on that. And yeah, if you have any technical issues, please stay with us or leave the session briefly and come back. And I hope everything runs smoothly in the next 1.5 hours. So we have three presentations. The first one on maximizing boosting impact on how libraries can boost impact on research infrastructures. And our speaker will be Christos Kontinos. He's a PhD student and researcher at the National Technical University of Athens. And he has a diploma in electrical and computer engineering, and has worked on projects, and has the right expertise to have a look at this. And I invite him to enable his camera now, and then I will hand the floor to him, and then we go back to the next presentation after his presentation. So I need our helper now to, is it all in a row? I hope so.
Okay.
Oh yes, wonderful. So I vanish in the background. Sorry.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Hi everyone, my name is Christos Kontinos, and I'm one of the co-authors of the publication entitled Recommendations on How Research Libraries Can Boost Their Impact on Research Infrastructures that I will present to you today. To keep it short, we will refer to research libraries as RLs and research infrastructures as RIs. That will also help me save a couple of minutes from my presentation. So let's move on right away to the scope of the current research work, which is to provide a number of recommendations on how RLs can boost their impacts on RIs and assist them on raising their standards on research data services. The main reason for this is trying to leverage and capitalize on the funding opportunities that the research infrastructure ecosystem is receiving these past years, showcasing that it is indeed a priority for funders and policymakers. In this ecosystem, infrastructures and libraries constitute vital ingredients due to their ability to offer unique services with no location restrictions, function within the knowledge triangle, and ultimately be a catalyst in assisting in the creation of highly skilled scientific personnel. For the why of this publication, we will have to look on the challenges that the RI ecosystem is facing today. These challenges stem from a lot of places, and also from a LIBER strategy to enhance cooperation among RLs and RIs. Such partnerships must be realized to develop and use new data management systems and services, as well as enhance the knowledge level of researchers and other respective personnel. Despite the importance of the aforementioned for a truly powerful research ecosystem, what is missing is capitalizing on fresh ideas and disruptive technologies to make research libraries catalytic actors in the research infrastructure ecosystem by strengthening their engagement with RIs, raising awareness on research data infrastructure and management, as well as open science. Now, under the context of this publication, a comprehensive research was performed to assess the relationship between RLs and RIs and how this is reflected in the respective bibliography. Unfortunately, our results show that there is no specific literature covering the impact of RLs on RIs, as well as their impact on science and society. In addition, there are only a few publications that evaluate the activities and services offered by RLs. However, there are a number of reports and publications that offer ways to connect libraries with higher education and research communities and shift their focus from traditional practices and onward to more innovative approaches. More specifically, on the related work part, the main principles of the publications that were assessed focus on ways that RLs can provide access to their vast pool of information and cope with technological change as the two driving forces for the future. Many articles focus on the role of research data management, or RDM for short, especially given that nowadays vast amounts of data are produced in a variety of forms at a rapid rate, especially from libraries. Other articles point out that RLs need to continuously add value to their services to satisfy the increasing needs of the research community, and that librarians themselves must have a vital role in this endeavor by enhancing their skills and knowledge based on the actual challenges that their organizations are facing. Now, let's move on to the main part of this research work, which is to provide a number of recommendations to RLs to help them overcome the challenges that I already mentioned. To generate our recommendations, we had to evaluate current approaches regarding the evolution of RLs, aiming to distill good practices and provide a set of recommendations that can be explored to provide innovative solutions in many of the problems that the RLs currently face. The recommendations will be based on the research literature and can be split in three distinct categories: current research data management, research libraries and disruptive technologies, focusing on big data, linked data, blockchain, and artificial intelligence, and lastly, research libraries and social media. We hope that this method will help generate recommendations both from current practices as well as opportunities that arise from emerging technologies and new approaches. Let's start with RDM, which is extremely important, as you all know, since we are living in the era of digitization, and RLs have the unprecedented opportunity to take advantage of technological advancements that will allow them to collect, store, and analyzing increasing amounts of scientific and research data on a global scale. In fact, according to various researchers and reports, effective approaches for research data management are imperative to ensure transparency of scientific data, data preservation, reuse, and reanalysis in an effort to advance knowledge. Given that research data is increasingly seen as an essential part of the scholarly record, access to which must be provided, of course, by academic libraries, it stands to reason that the management of research data is a global issue for the libraries. Now, RDM can take many forms, and there are a wide range of possible data services that libraries can offer, such as the creation of institutional data repositories, providing tools for data mining and visualization, training of researchers on RDM activities, guidance on institutional policies, helping with creating metadata, and others. In fact, past research with domain stakeholders suggests that research and academic libraries should extend their traditional role of simply providing research and reference services, as it is incumbent upon them to provide support for effective RDM. Now, while the aforementioned signify that RDM is very important for research and academic libraries, various surveys performed over the years show that most libraries do not offer any form of research data services, but intend to do so in the future. This is due to a shortage of available solutions and the lack of expertise from research libraries to leverage ICT technologies for the development of new and innovative tools. It can be surmised that the field of research data management is still in its emergent stage, and as such, RLs need to address this challenge in a holistic way, instead of simply searching for a suitable data management tool that they can implement or outsourcing its development to a third party. Of course, this will require the provision of training and learning opportunities to RL employees for acquiring new knowledge and developing competencies that are needed to increase ICT usage. In other words, providing RDM for libraries requires skilled professionals, as well as resources and time. And all these point to an increase in data literacy that is needed from the side of RLs, so that they will be more able to effectively develop data management plans. Now, let's move on to disruptive technologies and how they can help research libraries increase their service offering and their impact. From a quick search, one can see that RLs are heavily underrepresented in innovative ICT research and disruptive technologies. However, recent advancements are very important, and it is quite important also to explore how they can be used to leverage the data produced by libraries, and in order to create more robust and effective databases and services. We will start by focusing on big data, a technology that has seen significant rise in both interest and implementation in the recent years. Big data refers to extremely large data sets that may be analyzed computationally to reveal patterns, which has also led to data-driven science, which is a new research paradigm. Big data concerning libraries can help them create repositories with unprecedented volumes of data that can, through text mining, topic modeling, and various other analytic techniques that are connected with big data, create new knowledge and expand human understanding in a variety of topics. As a result of this growing emphasis on data and analytics, academic data librarianship has emerged as a vital aspect of library services in recent years. And libraries are increasingly seeking to recruit data analysts, curation, and visualization specialists. So in the end, this shows that both existing as well as future librarians should pursue studies in the aforementioned fields, while the libraries themselves should constantly provide opportunities to their employees for further education. Moving on to linked data, this is a framework behind the semantic web, which was an idea proposed by Tim Berners-Lee. By applying the principles of linked data, the relationship between data, not just the documents in which they are contained, are made explicit and readable by both humans and machines. So with the ability to understand and interpret these semantically explicit connections, computers will have the power to lead users to a web of related data based on a single information set. It is evident that research libraries can leverage linked data to revolutionize their services, especially during our age when Google is often the first place that people search for information. I guess that freeing library data from their centralized databases can increase the availability of library resources to a larger number of users who may not make the library the first place they look for information, thus also increasing the visibility of the library. This can also increase the overall quality of information online, as it represents the necessity to transform the library catalog from a separate and closed database to an integration with the technology that people use for research. In addition, linking research libraries to the web would allow users to navigate seamlessly between disparate library databases and external information providers, such as other libraries and search engines. The third technology that we will focus on, and actually the subject of my thesis, is blockchain. Although the mechanics of blockchains are kind of complex, the basic idea is quite simple: to decentralize the storage of data so that such data cannot be owned, controlled, or manipulated by a central actor. At its most basic level, blockchain is simply a chain of blocks, as its name suggests, made of digital pieces of information that usually represent some form of data transaction. The structure of blockchain, though, allows it to securely store information in a decentralized, secure, and immutable manner, as no change can be made in an existing block without ensuring the network consensus. This is the law of 51% usually. This fits well with the services offered by research libraries, which is gathering, preserving, and sharing authoritative information usually. The first potential use of blockchain in research libraries lies in the fact that it can be used to validate authenticity of documents and other data, since each document will be represented by a unique cryptographic hash. In the form of blockchain, this is simply a data transaction. So blockchain could be used to create timestamp verifiable versions of journal articles. While another potential use in research libraries is as a digital rights management tool. Since digital resources are inherently reproducible, and this creates issues for libraries and publishers, because the blockchain now creates a unique verifiable record that can be accessed by anyone, it could be tied to digital materials, enabling them to be uniquely identified. One final suggestion here, especially for libraries operating in Europe, is that they could leverage the upcoming services of the EBSI initiative, which is offering some great opportunities to leverage blockchain technology and tools. The last technology that we will analyze is artificial intelligence, or machine intelligence, as it is sometimes called. And it is used to describe computers that mimic cognitive functions, such as learning and problem solving, that are most associated with the human mind. In fact, opposite to humans, who largely increase their knowledge in a linear fashion, over time, AI-powered machines collect and process large amounts of data and use it to learn in unprecedented speeds, thus constantly improving their future responses to a given task. So how can this be used in libraries? It can operate in the task of personalizing content to meet the needs of learners and researchers who otherwise have to perform a lot of manual labor to locate relevant research works or datasets. As a researcher myself, I can attest to that fact. However, this increased intelligence of machines means that libraries must build more sophisticated databases so that they are able to facilitate the advanced analytics and cognitive abilities of AI. As a final note, it should be mentioned that one of the keys in developing AI systems is to follow the ethical guidelines published by respective policy-making bodies, such as the AI AIDS leg in the European Union, that points out that AI should be lawful, ethical, and robust. The final set of recommendations concern the increase of research libraries' presence on social media by leveraging the various social networking channels that exist today. Social media in the last decade, as we all know, saw an unprecedented rise in user interest and involvement, to a point that there are now the main place for students and researchers as well to communicate with each other, while traditionally this place was traditional and digital libraries. In fact, it is common knowledge today that most people actually disseminate and receive information via social media sources. While this paradigm shift has created the grounds for people to massively exchange information and opinions about various topics, the same cannot be said about the quality of information exchange on social media. On the other hand, research libraries provide users with prestigious academic information from peer-reviewed publications and data. As such, it stands to reason that libraries must increase their social media presence in an effort to become bastions of valid and evidence-based information spreading, especially during times of uncertainty among the general population. An example here could be the latest COVID-19 outbreak, which saw most people bombarded with information regarding the virus from multiple diverse sources, especially in social media, which led to mass confusion and panic. So if research libraries reestablish themselves as mainstream information providers in social networking channels, that would also provide them with the opportunity to promote their services and programs to a wide range of people. While the research literature shows that most research libraries have not been idle in establishing their social media presence, many publications have generated guidelines for effective social media information. Others suggest that there is still room for improvement, especially as this concerns cross-library collaboration that could lead to more cross-disciplinary alignment within academic research by aiding scholars in locating connections with large sets of data and exposing them to a variety of viewpoints that might have otherwise been overlooked. To conclude my presentation, it is evident that RIs need to involve RLs in their functions in order to enhance their collaboration and avoid duplication of work. However, RLs need to evolve and adapt to the new environment that is largely shaped not only by technology, but also by the RL's production of data. They have to entail in their goals the creation of participatory services, since the term is being considered as of fundamental relevance for European policy strategy. They also have to exploit all the capabilities and possibilities current and future technological practices give them in order to achieve what is widely accepted. Ease of access, the one-stop shop approach, and a clean and efficient way to access digital content. This requires simple steps such as the improvement of metadata quality, the offering of digital collections, and the use of social media to advertise the benefits that researchers will have from using their services. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention. I guess I will be receiving your questions at the end of the other two presentations. So once again, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Christos. And I keep in mind, yes, you can ask some questions as well. So we move on to the next presentation, which will be on library engagement and subject-specific research integrity, looking into data trainings, creating data trainings for early career researchers, students. And our speaker will be Olaf Siegert from the Leibniz Information Center for Economics, who did this work together with his colleague Sven Fleming. And Olaf is head of publication services and acts as open access representative, active in several working groups. And I hand over now to Olaf. And
yeah, thank you, Birgit. And hello also from my side. Yeah, what can you expect in the next 15 to 20 minutes? First of all, as ZBW is not a normal LIBER member library, so we are not a university library, therefore I'll just take the time and maybe give you just some information about our institution first. That also relates to our background for also providing these data training for economists. Then in the third part, I will showcase the elements of the data training and how it is structured. Then in the fourth part, I provide some statistics about participants, and that will move over then to the fifth part, the feedback we got from the participants and also from the research community on these trainings. And then I will end with some lessons learned and also our future plans. Okay. So ZBW, we are also a library, so German National Library for Economics. So this is also our link to the library world. And we are the world's largest information center for economic literature. And we are not part of a university, but we belong to the non-university sector in Europe. We're a member of the Leibniz Association. And we have our offices in Kiel and Hamburg in northern Germany. Our main target group of our services is the economics research community, and this includes learned societies, research institutions, also university faculties, single researchers, young scholars, and students, mainly in Germany, of course, but we also have some services which are also open and are also heavily used by economists from outside of Germany. So first of all, we have a disciplinary repository econ store with about 200,000 open access full texts, which is quite heavily used and also populated by economic institutions all over the world. We have two economics journals that we edit. So the editorial office is in ZBW. One is Intereconomics, which deals with European issues on economic policy, and Wirtschaftsdienst, which deals with the German area of research policy, economic policy. Then concerning data management, we are involved in promoting the FAIR standard, and maybe you have heard of the Go FAIR initiative, and here we host the national office for Germany of Go FAIR in Hamburg. And also maybe some of you which are quite familiar with the open science issue overall know our open science conference that we host each year in Berlin. And so therefore, maybe there are some points that you know about our institution now. So that goes over to now the background for our data trainings. It's a quite recent initiative of ours. And so when we look at our target group, we see that we have about 15,000 scholars of economic research in Germany, and they are mainly working at universities, about 80%, I would say, and about 20% in a non-university research sector, mainly in the Leibniz Association as well. And for the economics disciplines, research data are crucial, and some studies have found out that up to 75% of the current research literature in economics that ends up in the big journals is based on data analysis and is based on research data. So this is the one side of it, but the other side is that when we see that a lot of mainly young scholars really need support in dealing with RDM, and I also saw in the chat talking about data literacy and some issues about how to deal with your own research data as a scholar. Then of course support is needed, and there are still there are quite a few research libraries already providing that that support, but they are mainly generic services and not focusing on specific disciplines. But this is exactly that what researchers are need, because we have these different publication cultures, these different research cultures, and therefore you can't really say the research data management in medicine is the same as in economics or I don't know, in other disciplines, and therefore these specific services are very useful. And therefore we have developed a subject-specific data training program for young researchers in economics. And we could do that because we have already built up on expertise that we built up during quite a few research data related projects and services, and the two most recent that also where also the project stuff is involved in the data frames as well is, on the one hand, IREE, the International Journal for Reviews in Empirical Economics, and the ZBW Journal Data Archive. And I will now come to these two services so you have a better view on what it's about. IREE is the first journal dedicated for the publication of replication studies in empirical economics. So in economics, normally you have certain field journals that now and then also publish replication studies, but you don't have a specific journal dedicated to replication studies, and therefore although most learned societies say they are very important for transparency in economics, you still have the situation that only a few empirical studies are replicated, and also some meta studies found out that a lot of economics research so far is not replicable to this day, and therefore more replication studies are needed, and there need to be more incentives for that. Therefore, we decided together with some researchers from German universities to set up this journal, and to give researchers and authors an incentive for the publication of such a journal in a specific journal, and they can get credit for their contribution here. And as we are publicly financed institutions, of course, we don't overall our costs to the authors or the users, and therefore, of course, the journal is open access without author fees. We started it in 2017, and we have established an external peer-reviewed system. So ZBW does not do the peer review; it's done by international economists who are involved here. The other service is the Journal Data Archive. It builds up on a previous German project, and this has been online since 2016. And it's a data repository for data of published research articles that relate to specific journals. So our target group here are editorial offices or editors of economics journals or business studies journals, and they can use us as a data archive for their raw data that their authors hand in together with their manuscripts, because a lot of journals now provide a data policy, but their publishers normally don't provide data archive. Some of the big publishers do now, but even here we don't have same pictures with every publisher, and still a lot of the medium-sized publishers don't provide any support when it comes to data repositories. So therefore, this service here, the JDA, of course, is FAIR compliant, and we provide data side DOIs as well, so as we do with IREE. And so we already have, I think, 7 or 8 journals that use our Journal Data Archive, and some even are listed in the Web of Science and have impact factors. So therefore, it's quite a good used service. Now I come to the data training itself. First of all, an overview. So it's a one-day training event, takes about 8 hours, and so the main target group here, the most participants are PhD candidates with a master's degree, and we allow, depending on where we host our trainings, it's not always within ZBW offices, but also externally. I come to that in a minute. So we allow up to 18 participants, but sometimes also only to 10 participants. And the training itself is a half-half mixture of input talks and hands-on training in small groups. And the participants learn about good scientific practice and how data analysis are made reproducible in practice. And here we mainly work with the Stata software, which is quite prominent and heavily used with economists. Then we inform about data policies of economics journals, and this is also in a flux, and some journals now have data policies, some improve their data policies and change that, so it's always interesting to keep that in mind. And the requirements also of research funders and how to tackle this as an author, these requirements and these policies. And the hands-on parts, they try to simulate the research process in a nutshell from analysis to publication, and show you also how this has been done. So when we look on the first part, so the morning part of the training, we first of all give an introduction about good scientific practices and also about open science. Then we have the first hands-on part in small groups. So the participants analyze data for some easy research questions and are asked to write a mini research paper. So they mainly also use the topic of their thesis or their dissertation. This is also possible. Then in the second talk, we provide requirements of reproducible research when working with Stata. So we introduced to the software, or normally the PhD candidates are already familiar with Stata, but maybe not very experienced. So only have generic skills about that. And in the second hands-on part, the groups can upload their research data and mini paper to the Journal Data Archive in order to allow replications by others. So this is also part of the program here. And after the lunch breaks, we give an overview over economics journals data policies and how they differ. And in the third hands-on part, the groups are asked to reproduce and replicate the findings of the other groups. And this is really the tricky part. So then you can really see, are you able to replicate the findings of others? And you can really discuss that in the group on that day. So that is really has a great learning effect. And then, of course, present the findings and discuss the outcome. And in the fourth talk, we inform about data policies of some research funders. But as most of the young researchers are not really involved in research projects so far, we do not go into very much details here. So this is more a generic part, and of course this can be done also for other disciplines. But the other parts are mainly really subject specific. Yeah, and in the end, we also take some time to gather feedback from the participants on the workshop, and also the clarification of remaining questions. So we had 10 workshops so far in 2018 and till the beginning of 2020, before COVID-19. We had quite more than 100 participants overall. And we are really surprised that we got registrations for the workshops from all parts of Germany and even from Austria and the Netherlands. So it seemed to really fill a gap there. And so in all, we had registrations from 55 different universities and economics research institutes. And when you look at the logos below, it's really the rank and files of prominent and publication-intensive research institutes and universities in Germany here that where staff of these institutions took part in our workshop. Yeah, then the feedback is also interesting, of course, because the participants were asked to fill in a short questionnaire and to rate the quality of the workshop. And so they should give like school grades, German school grades from very good to deficient. And we can really say that, more than 90 or 95% of participants really say that the workshop was very good or good concerning their work. And even more important for us was really the answers to the questions: how relevant do you believe is the content of our workshop for your recent and your future academic work? And here we could really say that, more than 97% of participants really say that the workshop was very relevant or relevant to their work. So we could really see, okay, we're going on the right direction here. Yeah, and because we had so positive reactions from single participants, then of course also the overall economics research community in Germany became aware of the workshop and asked for cooperations. And as a result, we do not answer all the questions because or all the requests, because we only have limited staff here. But we now hold the workshops not only in ZBW office, but also at the University of Hamburg, for example, or together with the Learn Society of Business Administration in Germany, with the Leuphana University in Lüneburg, and also in the offices of one big German funder, the Joachim Herz Stiftung, which is quite active in funding economics research in Germany. So I already come to the end of my presentation. It normally should say it's number 6 here, according to the structure. Yeah, so far we are quite happy with the results, and we really see that it's an important contribution. But the workshop at the moment are really should have been expanded, but the COVID-19 pandemic crossed our scheduling. And so as the workshop, as you have seen, relies very much on the interaction of participants in small groups, we had really long discussions and still thinking about how to transfer that into a digital format. And we plan to offer at least some parts of the training in online webinars. We're really not sure if we can manage to transfer all of the content of the webinar into an online format, but we will see. And the other thing is that also some participants asked us to expand the workshop content on also on more data software tools, and R, for example, is also very heavily used among economists, and it's an open source software. So you could really see that from when you take 100 economists, and I would say about 90 of them work either with Stata or with R. So when you have these two softwares, then you normally have most of the market. And so we normally we at the moment work on expanding the workshop to include also best practices with R. Okay, so then I'm at the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I'm really interested and curious to hear your questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Olaf. Very, very nice presentation. So questions come after, but we go back to the questions which were in the chat, so you can vanish in the background now. And we move on to our third presentation, which will be about integrating responsible research data management practices as part of research workflows on a national and local level. And we have 2 speakers for this presentation. We have Susanna Nikiri, who's manager of open science services at Tampere University Library. And in addition, her colleague, Dr. Katja Feld, who is chief information specialist and leads a team which is concentrating on research support services at the same university. So it's time for you to take it away, please.
Thank you, Birgit, and thank you also for all your kind and efficient help in organizing this session. Yes, we have 3 teams fitting these open science services at the Tampere University Library. One of them is metrics team, then we have publishing support and this research support team, which Katja Feld is leading. And the focus of the presentation is twofold. First, we are going to discuss research data management collaboration in Finland within the context of National Open Science Coordination and Open Data Learning Working Group. After that, we are going to discuss the current research data management development work at Tampere University. And as conclusions, we are going to provide some recommendations. The National Open Science Coordination in Finland is supported by the Federation of Finnish Learned Societies with funding from the Ministry of Education and Culture. And the aim of the coordination is, and the work within that, is to promote national dialogue on the objectives and means of open scholarship, to increase cooperation and to raise awareness of the opportunities, challenges and solutions of open scholarship. And this coordination is strongly based on the cooperation of the entire research sector. There are some clear principles behind the coordination and they apply also to the working groups. So the coordination itself is open and transparent. The coordination structure is as simple as possible and makes use of existing networks and projects. And the coordination focuses on key issues in open scholarship as defined by the research community. The coordination model is based on collaboration between working groups, expert groups, and strategy group. And the shape of the coordination is formed by a joint effort of the entire research community. Research data management training is already an established support service for researchers in many research organizations. And it's also currently being actively developed in cooperation, especially with all university libraries in Finland. And these national working groups on open data, they create joint solutions for research support services in research data management and open data and share knowledge, material and best practices. And within this open data panel, there are these several working groups. And in addition to this open data training, there are dynamic DMBs, national policy for open data, marketing of open data services for researchers, and research data linking and citation guidelines. Within this open data training working group, there are about 30 members representing about 20 organizations. All university libraries are very well represented here, but also we have expert members from universities of applied sciences and institutions like CSC, the IT Center for Science in Finland, FSD, the Social Science Data Archive, Academy of Finland, and like that. And the aim of the group is to plan and provide training for trainers in various research data management issues. And its concrete task is to compile a national proposal for research data management training modules and focus groups and provide shared training opportunities and events for research data management trainers across organizational borders. And the group has been active now almost a year. There are many things already done. We have shared experiences and different models for research data management training on different levels within different organizations. We have shared training material and organized national training session on anonymization together with the Finnish Social Science Data Archive. There are several things still in progress, like benchmarking and defining best practices and core skills, also core roles within research data management, and to establish the needed network and promote broad cooperation. And now Katja, please.
Okay, thank you, Susanna, and hello everyone. So I'm going to delve a little more about what we do in Tampere University and Tampere University Library in terms of research data management. Just very briefly to tell you a little bit more about Tampere University. It's a multidisciplinary university with focus on technology, health and society. And the university is fairly new, so basically it's just kind of a toddler phase. The Tampere University was created in January 2019 by the merger of the University of Tampere and Tampere University of Technology. And plus, there's an addition by Tampere University of Applied Sciences. So these three organizations form Tampere University community. And Tampere University Library offers services to the entire Tampere University community. So we serve all members of our community. And the University Library also trains researchers very broadly on research data management, open access publishing, and research visibility. And what is also noteworthy is that library coordinates the data service that brings together different types of services related to data from different service providers within the community. And the data service also supports RDM on a one-stop shop basis. So the data service was launched late last year, and is in that sense it's very still fairly new, but we are already doing quite a lot of work within the service. So if we think about open science training in general, or in a broadest sense, that is already being integrated in the basic studies and in the PhD studies. And in the basic studies, it is integrated in information literary studies that is mandatory for all students, ranging from first-year students to master's degree students. And the first-year students are, for example, introduced open science as a concept. And the candidate degree students are being told and taught about open data, and especially open data as part of candidate thesis. So, for example, where they can get data for their thesis. And to master's degree level, the students are being taught about the benefits on open access publishing in their studies, and also about research data management. And in the information literary studies that focus in working life skills, also the open science is examined from the perspective of working life skills and how students can use these research data management skills when they advance themselves in job and working life. And for PhD students, open science is a mandatory part in ethics training, and the themes include research data management and ethics. So the aim is to kind of try to represent data management and key ethical issues that are connected to good research data management and responsible research data management. Other themes include open access publishing and researchers' visibility and impact. And open science is also part of the studies provided by the doctoral school. So quite a lot of collaboration and work being done for students already. So when we look at the research data management training, the main target groups are PhD students and postdoctoral researchers, as well as other experienced researchers. And this year, so in 2020, an important focus group is thesis supervisors, because the supervisors, they have a very central role in disseminating good research data management practices to graduate and PhD students. We also have a national policy in Finland that's in drafting stage and also in Finnish at this moment. So unfortunately, we couldn't share it at this point. But this national policy is called Policy for Open Access to Research Data and Methods. And the policy, for example, highlights that organizations should offer research data management training to all researchers, students, teachers, thesis supervisors, as highlighted, and support staff. And here are some of the areas that the organizational research data management training currently develops in Tampere University and Tampere University Library. So we are developing tailored training on research data management, including data protection and data security for supervisors. And we are closely collaborating with data protection and data security professionals in our university, and we organize training together with them. And it's a very good collaboration. So we also have a tailored trainings for projects, principal investigators, tenure track professors, and other academic personnel, including the postdoctoral researchers. Kind of a newest addition this spring has been the data management plan support and data management support for research infrastructures. So we have been consulting research infrastructures and offered them targeted consultations, and we have been commenting their DMPs and helped them in that way. And we've also compiled a data management policy for open research infrastructures at Tampere University that you can all find behind the link. That's openly accessible for everyone in our organizational repository. And the policy provides these kind of general guidelines and principles for research infrastructures so they can promote responsible use and open access to their resources. And the infrastructures have been really happy to have this kind of policy. And also, we've piloted a research data management module for students writing their master's thesis. And the background is that earlier this year, so January-March 2020, 8 groups were selected. These groups were mainly from information science, nursing science, and master's degree program in management of healthcare and social services in the University of Applied Sciences. And the pilot reached 102 students plus 13 teachers. So we were happy to see that also there were quite a lot of teachers present. And here are some of the results and experiences. Of course, the students and teachers, they highly valued this type of research data management training because there is a very strong need for training so that the students are able to carry out the thesis. And as noted earlier, data management skills are also seen as having a very essential role in working life. So in that sense, they are very essential for the students at this point. And some of the things that the students themselves were concerned were fairly familiar for everyone who works with research data management. So they were concerned about issues such as data protection, processing personal information, data storage, and data opening. And also, the pilot kind of taught us that when you plan teaching, it is better to have training session in the very beginning of the thesis process. So it helps the students much more naturally than if it had been placed at the very end of their thesis process. Also, teachers' role is vital, and this also allows them to kind of have dialogue, both with the students, but also with the research data management specialists. And also, it's very good to keep the teaching very concrete and let the students participate. And it's also a matter of resources. And as I said, we in the future, we will be focusing on the teachers' training. So they will be disseminating the good research data management and responsible research data management skills to their students in the future. Okay, now it's back to Susanna.
Yes, thank you, Katja. As conclusions, we like to make some recommendations. So we would like to emphasize the role and this support of supporting the great variety of customer needs and needed collaboration. As Katja described, we have a lot of that kind of tailored training, so we cannot serve within one training session all the needs which they represent. And these research data management trainers, they have a very crucial role, not only in promoting, but also in creating best research data management practices. And here I would also like to quote the first presenter who said that future librarians should pursue studies in the data sciences. So I agree with that. And here also the role of the trainers perhaps should be opened a little bit more, because this research data management trainer is a very broad concept. There are different roles and expertises within this. So not only within different support services within universities, but also when we consider the differences between information specialist, data manager, data librarian, data steward, data agent, and so on. That's something we are also developing within the national group and also at the organizational level. And we also like to emphasize that in order the research data management maturity to grow, the seed needs to be sown early on, already at the student level. And here in training the trainers and in every aspect of research data management, the role of national and international cooperation is especially strong. And last but not least, the role of supervisors and teachers, it's very, very important, and we should invest also on them. So thank you on our half.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Susanna and Katja. And please, Chris and Olaf, could you join us? So we have a bit of time left for your questions. And let me read some of them. I mean, the first one, which might be from the chat. I mean, we had comments in terms of some pointers to the literature. I mean, in the early first presentation of Chris, there was a pointer to the EOS pilot project. I mean, there is certainly some projects which are on research infrastructures where LIBER engaged. LIBER was a partner of this project, and also the ongoing FAIR project. So I missed a bit that you didn't mention FAIR in terms of engagement. In terms of infrastructure covers a lot, and then comes the human element, of course. I mean, in terms of services. Yeah, and data literacy was mentioned in terms of not only in academia, but also outside of academia in jobs which people might choose later. And yeah. So
yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, but you can jump in now if you want to comment on any of these topics. So maybe to the speakers.
Actually, I saw the conversation about data literacy, and I think it was kind of explained by other attendees. But just a few thoughts in my mind. Data literacy points out to the skills of professionals, in our case, librarians and other research workers, to handle the data that have to do with their domain. So when talking about research libraries, they should have more specific knowledge about how to create metadata, how to create querying systems, and how to generally make their databases more robust and open. So more robust means that the database is structured in such a way that more innovative computational intelligence can be applied on it. So a robust database means that AI and machine learning and big data analytics can be applied on that data. And this is a given for libraries to renovate their offering. That's just a few thoughts from me. If there is a follow-up question, I would be glad to answer it.
Yeah, there are certainly some ideas in libraries in terms of enabling more machine-to-machine interactions in terms of the content of these databases. And sometimes but these are so far only few institutions are stepping into this. I mean, for digitized collections or.
Yes, that is true. And, the technology is already there. But I noticed that
investment, as you said, for sure. Any comments from the others on the skills aspect, or tech saviness was also mentioned in terms of ICT, outdated job descriptions in libraries. So there is some movement, of course, but not broad, perhaps, in terms of data skills plugged into job descriptions happening a bit. Any further comments? No.
Yes, I think that we should work further both internationally and nationally and at organizational level in defining these different roles and fields of expertise. Also, because this research data management it's also very broad. If you think what kind of expertise is behind it, and naturally one person cannot cover all of that. And that's also why we are working very closely within our university with other professionals like legal experts. And so we are not expecting one person to handle every question which is related to research data management. But also, if I think support services, so there are also these different roles. So developing, for instance, this data stewardship roles and the cooperation with our information specialist, for instance.
Yeah, thank you. And then there were a bunch of questions to Olaf. You might have noticed some of them. I mean, so for example, for Iris, I think he was also asking if the courses are mandatory or voluntary, and others were asking if they could join, which I was from other countries, not just the German-speaking countries. So.
Yeah. So first of all, the courses are voluntary. You know, we are not part of any university, and therefore we cannot force students into our courses. We have a large database of German economists and their contact details. So therefore, we have quite a big emailing, marketing about these new courses when we arrange something. So therefore, people just see that in their emails and then just register. And but
have you find an online version for 2020 for the rest of the year?
Sorry?
An online version? Have you considered to deliver something?
As I said in my summary, we are thinking about that we will provide something like that. And also there was a question about the inclusion of researchers from other countries. Yeah, we allowed that so far, but the problem is that it's only a side project, so we don't get external funding for that. So and I mentioned the two other projects that we have, and so you need very skilled staff for that work very close to researchers to really make that an efficient workshop, and therefore we can't just duplicate the stuff there, and therefore we can only provide a limited number of workshops each year. But actually we are also thinking about maybe applying and also or maybe we also want to apply for an external project, and maybe then we can acquire staff for that, and so that might be a chance for 2021.
Yeah. Other questions were, for example, you mentioned the data storage, which is provided by ZBW. Do you also point to other disciplinary repositories, because sometimes it might be more adequate? Not every journal will use your infrastructure.
Yeah, that's right. But so here we do not focus any individual researchers. So we have collaborations with some journals, and therefore only we have contracts with some journals and with the editors there, and only if you are a researcher which actually is an author of that journal, then the data gets into our repository. But of course, if we are asked from any researchers, where shall I put my data, then of course we also point.
The policy is a little bit like the policy of Dryad, that there must be a research article linked to the data.
Yeah, and it only goes via the journal editor. So it's like the journal editors are our customers. So and they link to their authors then, and
So, and maybe Susanna and Katja, if you would like to comment on the views Chris presented in terms of research infrastructure, does it ring true, or is there anything which you think was not? Because you have the policy on open research infrastructure.
Yes.
What is
yes.
Part
there's
there?
there's the link. It's openly available online.
So what is the main areas which are covered in these policies? This policy.
It kind of follows the basic also issues which are covered in the general DMP, data management plans, those topics. Also when it comes to responsible practices here. So we have listed some principles here. They are in all, now I opened 14 of them. So which we advise the persons who are making more detailed management plans for these infrastructures to consider and also to follow.
Yeah, the principles are in general rather broad. So because the infrastructures can vary a lot. So there are lots of different types of infrastructures. Some of them are very kind of research orientated. Then there are infrastructures such as the Finnish Social Science Data Archive, that is a data archive. So they can have very different types of data, very different needs for managing their data. So we wanted to keep the principles in our organizational policy very broad, that every infrastructure can kind of relate to them and sort of adapt their own data management practices under the policy.
Then there are a couple more questions to you in the chat. For example, Gita asks, what do you mean to invest in supervisors? What do you offer to them?
Yeah, so that we organize these tailored training sessions for them and also consider them as one group in the marketing, because we have noticed that they are not so keen on participating or training together with the students. So it's better to have it separate, and the discussion can also be slightly different then.
They don't want to be
So
like,
of course the principles behind responsible research data management is the same for students and supervisors, but the discussion,
they
the topic,
the same training, right?
pretty much the same. Yes.
Yeah, but not with the students. I mingle with the
yeah. So it influenced the discussion. Within these.
And also they might dominate it too much, or it's easier for students to pick up if there's no teacher in the room. Then there's another question involving colleagues from several disciplines. How do you do this? I mean, for the RDM tasks and for getting them commit to spend their time with you. Is it easy or?
I don't know. Well, they are very happy to collaborate with us, I would say, especially, for example, the people from the data protection and data security. They've really kind of taken their time to take part in our data management training that focus specifically on data protection and data security. So we really haven't had problems in that sense. Maybe Susanna can say something more about involving them in the beginning.
I think, well, in the beginning, it was very important, I think, that we had a clear project when we were developing this research data service, in which we got involved all these different, very important expertise specialists. So I think that was the basic for that, I suppose, because then we had those project meetings and we were discussing and developing what model would fit best for our university. So but then at that time we got to know each other very well, and we were very inspired by each other, and always ended up to be, after the meetings, very thankful for all the comments that were presented on the meetings. So we represented different perspectives and appreciated that a lot.
Thank you. Another question by Voima from Uppsala University Library. He's asking if we have any repositories in mind that are especially strong in supporting fair data processing and linked data. So Have you any examples?
Curiously, yes, I have only 2 examples that my research produced. You might want to look into the Texas A&M University that has created a repository with linked data that is used to actually leverage the big data. So they use linked data to create a knowledge base that will help big data better communicate with each other. And another example is from the Canadian Linked Data Initiative, which is a collaboration between 5 of Canada's biggest libraries. Unfortunately, nothing in Europe, but usually when we are trying to find big and interoperable solutions in Europe, we see the hurdles that are the difference in policies and language and stuff like that. So it's very hard to find a big initiative in the European Union, especially for libraries that are underrepresented in research.
So what was the first one? I didn't get it.
The first one was the Texas A&M University. And the second one was the Canadian Linked Data Initiative.
Yeah. Okay, maybe worth to have a look. And to all presenters, what drives researchers in your countries to be interested in research data topic? I mean, research data management as a topic. Are there national requirements to prepare DMPs or funders requiring this? Is this common to all of you?
I can start from the case of Greece that I imagine is the most depressing, actually, because libraries in Greece work in very isolated environments, either in universities or there are isolated libraries that just have some digital collections. What gets researchers interested in data management is actually data science studies. So, to my knowledge, there is no incentive from libraries to actually send their workers and their librarians to enhance their knowledge with data management studies, which does not always mean that you should go and take a 5-year degree on data management. There are various open courses that people can look into that can make them enhance their knowledge on data management.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen this from Germany as well. At Göttingen University, we have a course on basic data skills, which is open to all fields at the bachelor level. But what they did, they also just plugged in a freely available course. And I'm not sure how much conversation there was on this topic, because students were simply asked to turn to this, and I'm not sure. it was likely more concentrated on acquiring these data skills and work with Jupyter notebooks and stuff, and then you have to think a little bit about where you store these things, but not the fully fledged data management, perhaps. The course looked good. I mean, any other comments from?
Well, in Finland, I think on the first kind of wave, so the role of the funders and what kind of criteria and requirements they were having, so played especially big role. But I consider us as having already a second wave when we already discuss a lot more, not on the funders' requirements, but more on this responsible conduct of research and also the benefits of open science. And of course, when it comes to open data, so very often the wisest solution is not to open it, but still it always needs to be properly managed. So I think we are now getting much more emphasis on that aspect.
Yeah. Germany, there is also this responsible conduct on research, and you should store 10 years the data. So, but who is producing that? I would say hardly anyone.
Yes, and I suppose we are going to see the third wave when our students have already been familiar with these issues on their studies. So that's something we are now working. We have just started it. So we are taking the early steps on that. Yes.
Is it a requirement for students to manage their data in the sense it's part of their regulations of the degree? I mean, that you store and you have a plan. I mean, it's rather like the very few universities so far. I think Ghent has one of these PhD regulations where you say they have to have a DMP and they have to store the data. But is it already the case in a Finnish university or Tampere?
In Tampere, we have this guideline for open science, and research data issues are very much represented on that, but the emphasis is more on researcher level at this point still, I would say. Yes.
Yeah.
But we are expecting responsible conduct of research and also responsible research data management from everybody within our organization. It's stated on our guideline, and also our national guidelines support that.
And have all Finnish universities implemented like open science guide or roadmap, as you have a national policy? I mean, in the Netherlands, it now seems to be a wave of institutions since a few years creating such roadmaps and to break it down to the institutional level.
Yes, within this, the latest ones are now written within this National Open Science Coordination, and we have a national policy for open science, and then we already have established some more detailed and as this open data policy is now being written, so we are all the time developing it further and into more concrete phase also. And we are working very actively at the national level together for this, promoting these topics. I think this is something special for us in Finland.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from our audience, or otherwise?
I think there was one question about training the trainers, training for supervisors from Gita Rosenberger. Maybe I can add or answer that for Germany. There are quite a few projects now that provide train-the-trainer programs, and actually our two data training managers, they also took part in one. And they found it in general quite interesting, but of course, as we have this different approach, it was a bit difficult to adapt that to our specific needs. But I think overall, it's very useful for these generic questions like data management plans, for example, or funder requirements. There's a lot you can do with these train-the-trainer programs, and as I said, in Germany, we have quite a few. Services for that or projects that deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's of course different approaches also for train the trainer. Some are focusing very much on methodology. I mean, that people are getting a bit more varied in terms of activating contributions, and and then of course sometimes focused on specific topics which might not completely fit your own. Yeah. I guess you also have similar, different approaches in your how you train in Finland, right? I mean, in the
Yes, and it's also how we label things. I think when we are training kind of supervisors of supervisors, so we don't name it as training.
Yeah.
Yes, we like to kind of invite us to participate in faculty meetings, and in context like that, we are then telling about these topics.
Okay. Yeah, otherwise I would say if not any of you has any question to one of the others, then I think we can close this for today. And I thank you very much for your contributions, and to the audience for your questions. And I hope we have addressed them. And if not, please do not hesitate to get in touch with the speakers. We're certainly happy to hear from you. Yep. And I think it all went very well. Thank you also to the LIBER office for this perfect organization, and all stuff were uploaded, and so, and see you hopefully in person next time. and yeah, keep going on this topic. Yeah, thank you very much, and have a nice weekend. And perhaps you join the last session this afternoon. So, bye bye.
Thank you as well.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Bye bye.